You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the earliest things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, for nearly 20 years, we are the oldest existing podcast that still broadcasts 1 to 2 new shows a day. No one else is putting out that sort of volume. And it's a survival of the fittest, the last handful of us that are original podcasters. So help support the pirate ship. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, and YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and support us over there. For your family, friends, and relatives, say, gosh darn it, have you heard of the oldest podcast in existence that's still doing daily shows? It's a lot of work, folks. Help us out.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book success. We have an amazing young lady on the show today. We're going to be profiling a book from her late husband. The book is entitled, What Do 11 U.S. Presidents, the Dalai Lama, and WHOOPI Have in Common? By Patrick O'Donnell. His wife Peggy joins us in the show. We're going to get into it with her and find out some of the amazing stories he told in his book. He was an award-winning author, 60 years behind the camera, university professor, Emirati of Cal State Fullerton, freelance business owner covering major events, county and state fairs, charity fundraisers, opening of museums, concert halls, published worldwide, working red carpet events and covering 11 presidents, also vice presidents, politicians, and both parties and professional sports. Welcome to the show, Peggy. How are you?
I'm great. So nice to be with you. I appreciate all this.
So nice to have you as well. Give us any .coms, websites, social media, wherever you want people to find out more about you on the interwebs.
The website is called patrickinfocus.com. So that's where you can find him. Yes.
So could you give us a 30,000 overview, please, of what's inside this book?
What's inside this book is 60 years of covering everything from when he started and being a photographer with a local daily paper right out of high school when he was doing local sports. It all started when he was in high school when he won a sweepstakes award for the best photo in the senior high school in California. And set him on the path to do this. Then after he graduated from high school, he went to work while he was going to school, he went to start work at the Whittier Daily News, which was a local paper.
Oh, I used to live in Whittier.
Yeah, Whittier. And now Whittier is also the hometown of Richard Nixon.
Yes.
Yes, and Pat went to Whittier High School, and Richard Nixon went to Whittier High School, and Richard Nixon lived in Whittier, and he ran for Congress in Whittier. So after he was the vice president, he came back to Whittier and decided he would run for the governorship of California, which he lost to Pat Brown. But he was being acknowledged with his cousin, who is Jessamine West, who wrote Friendly Persuasion, the book that made into a movie in the late 1950s. So Pat went to a dinner at Whittier College where they were both being honored as both graduates of Whittier College. So that's 1962.
Wow.
Then he continues to do local sports and having fun and going to school. And then in 1964, he is given the opportunity to go to the Rose Bowl. And the Grand Marshal that year was Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh, wow.
So that now, unbeknownst to himself, he's got 2 of the presidents, okay? Not knowing that Richard was going to run. Anyway, later in 1964, this was after the Kennedy assassination, Lyndon Johnson comes to open up and dedicate the ground for the University of California at Irvine. And so in June of 1964, Pat they send him down there to cover the Lyndon Johnson event at UCI. Then later that summer, Richard Nixon pops back up again and dedicating ground at Whittier College for a new dorm and various things, and Pat goes there. So he's covering all this stuff. Then Nixon decides he's going to run for president after Johnson is gone. So because by this time we had moved to Orange County and he went to work for a larger daily paper, and Nixon is elected and he makes his White House out here in California in San Clemente.
Yeah.
And the editor at the paper knows that Pat had photographed Nixon prior to this. So almost every event where Nixon flew into the county at El Toro Marine Base or to the Orange County Airport, Pat got to go to the events. And then he established the White House. And so his editor and Pat went to the San Clemente estate, and everybody's going, this was just a press meeting. Meet the local press. So they're going through the line, and everybody's saying it's a lovely stage, beautiful pool. You think you da-da-da. Pat gets up there and he says, do you know this gentleman? And because that particular man gave Nixon the first $1,500 to run for Congress back in 1948.
Oh, wow.
And Pat had found him, and he knew him when he was up in Whittier before we moved. And Nixon stopped in the line, and so he chatted a few more minutes with Pat about the Whittier and the various things. So then we're moving on, and we're in Orange County, and he's joining the Daily Pilot, which was the name of the paper. And so then Nixon comes to Whittier, comes into the county a lot. And one of the first more interesting things was they went to San Juan Capistrano Mission. He and Richard Nixon and Pat Nixon, because they were recreating their first date. Pat was in the press corps and he was in the photographers. And now photographers generally get right in front of the speakers. Okay. And so Pat hadn't been on one of this big, and so he made the suggestion, why don't we kneel down so the audience can see the proceedings, the speech of being at the mission. And the Secret Service came and pulled him up, and he said, "You're our first line of defense. Stand up." So
you're going to take the first set of bullets if someone tries to kill the president?
You're going to take the first hit.
Wow.
Out of that audience.
That's wow.
So that was the first real Secret Service thing he ran into. Then it keeps going on until finally his final return, which was August 8th, 1974, when he comes back to El Toro. And that's right after he resigned. And Pat got that assignment. So he was down at the up on my wall there's a picture. This one here is Nixon returning to Orange County Airport to El Toro Marine Base. So Pat got to go to that one. And he had this picture of the people in the stands who were crying, and some older ladies who have tote bags that say, "Nixon, you're the one," and they're waiting in line. And it's mixed emotion on both sides. This is not a political book. It's simply recollections of one man who happened to get to be in all these events at one time.
That is pretty awesome. And photographing 11 presidents.
Yes. So now Nixon's out and Ford takes over. Okay, fine. And then Ford decides he's going to run for president. And the city I live in has a big park called Mile Square Park, which is obviously a mile on each side. Anyway, so Ford decides he'll have his kickoff campaign. Now, this park happens to be about a mile from my house. So I took Pat over there, dropped him off, and he went in. He didn't really have that great credentials, but he was able to get in and get Ford on stage talking to the crowd. So now he's got Ford. And it's the same summer, basically that same month, he's still working at the newspaper, and Carter comes in. And so Carter is invited, and Pat goes to the big barbecue that's put on by the local Democrats at a big ranch, which sits down in South Orange County. And the D.C. press corps is on the traveling bus. So Pat's in the local press, and they put them all together on one bus, okay? And the only trouble is the bus driver has no idea where this ranch is. But Pat happened to know where it was because he had been there recently to cover Groucho Marx at a Day at the Races fundraiser with Alice Cooper.
That was good.
So he has pictures of Groucho Marx feeding Alice Cooper a grape at this Day at the Races.
That's a hell of a bill.
It goes we're all over the place.
Yeah.
So then that was 77. By this time we're 77. He's still at the pilot. And now during that time, he's given the opportunity to go to photograph the last 5-star general, Omar Bradley, who is having a retreat from California. And they're giving it at Los Alamitos Naval Reserve Station. So Pat goes up there. And that means now he has 2 5-star generals. He has Dwight Eisenhower at the Rose Bowl and Omar Bradley's final retreat. He was 93. He was in a wheelchair, but the governor of the state at that time was Jerry Brown, and he was there, plus various other people. He was able to get pictures of them. So now he's got 2 5-star generals, a number of presidents, and this list is growing and growing.
Yeah, good reputation, too.
When I had taken a trip last fall, and I had gone up the Hudson Valley and had stopped at West Point. So after I got back, I called the archivist and I said, I have these photos of these 2 5-star generals. Would you like them? They sent back, and so the originals are now at West Point. So a lot of these originals have been sent to the various presidential libraries and West Point.
What a great honor.
Because I only want them to be safe and not squirreled away somewhere where they're not used. They may not be used again, but at least I know where they are.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we go to now, suddenly after all this, one day he comes home from work and says, I'm fired. And I had a kindergartner at home. And I said, okay, we'll do something else. So he immediately decided that he would give that all up and enter the world of teaching at Cal State Fullerton, which is about 45,000 students here in the county.
Wow.
And they hire him right away, and now he's teaching photojournalism, which he did for a long time. So they phased the program out. And during those years when he's at Cal State Fullerton, because we have the summers off, we decided to start working at the Orange County Fair to be the photographers at the fairgrounds. Both of us were photographers by that time. I joined him. And that meant we spent almost 25 years photographing everything that moved and didn't move, whether it was in the livestock pen or demolition derby, Mexican wrestling, skydiving, pie eating, clowns, anything that was on the fairgrounds, including our one major big event, which happened to be a gentleman named Dr. Norm Gary, who's up on the wall, and he's covered in bees, and he's playing the clarinet. And he's covered in bees, and he was the major act that summer at the fairgrounds. So he would be performing this every day, but he would be in the rodeo arena in a glassed-in booth when the public was there. But when Pat and I did it, we had to shoot color, black and white, and slides, and we were standing about 20 feet away from him in the rodeo arena, and he's on the back of a flatbed truck, and the entire fair board who are hiring him and reviewing his show, they're on the top row, the very top row of the rodeo arena. So that photo has been everywhere, including the National Enquirer.
Oh, wow.
And it happened to run the National Enquirer. They bought it from us, and they ran it, and the person that happens to be on the front cover of the National Enquirer that month was Donald Trump with his second wife and baby.
Oh, wow.
Now, we never got a picture of Donald Trump in all these years, but he's in the book because he's in the same National Enquirer as the bee guy.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that's been published worldwide. It's in a Greek insect book, university level book, and the only 2 English words in the entire book are Patrick O'Donnell. So I gave him photo credit for that photo.
That's good.
Including Norm Gary, who made a life-size cutout so he could move it around when he went off to play the clarinet minus the bees in where he was playing at various shows around. If he didn't want to be covered in bees, he'd have full-size cutout of himself covered in bees. So now he's at Cal State Fullerton and he's teaching, and everything's going fine. He's got students, and then what happens? They phase out the whole photojournalism, and all that's gone. Excuse me. So now they decide, okay, we'll hire you as a full-time staff photographer for the university to work with the president of the university. And that's how all the other celebrities came in. That's how Whoopi Goldberg came in, because they had these large shows raising money for scholarships. And they would all these people come in, and we had Whoopi Goldberg with Walter Cronkite.
Oh, wow.
And she interviewed him on stage in Anaheim at this very large sports arena. So they had probably 1,000 people for the dinner, and then we would be in the green room. Now that included all kinds of other people who came in. We had Earth, Wind, and Fire. We had Chicago. We had Colin Powell. We had Bill Cosby, and we had Tony Bennett and Kevin Costner. Buzz Aldrin didn't speak, but he was there. He came a number of times. Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk on the moon. Years ago, we shot his second wedding when we started our business. And so anyway, he would show up at Cal State Fullerton, and there's a photo in the book. He's at dedicating something or other, and Pat got the assignment, and Buzz Aldrin is standing there with Buzz Lightyear, who is the Disney toy named after him. So
really?
Standing there with that. And this went on, and we would do all these dinners and shows and meet and greets and have all these people. And then twice, while he's at Cal State Fullerton, the baseball team wins the national championship, once under Bill Clinton and once under George H.W. Bush. So Pat got to go to the White House 2 times, once with each of the baseball teams when they were acknowledged as a world championship.
Oh, wow.
And once in the Rose Garden under Clinton, and once in the East Room under George W. When he went the second time, the team was allowed to be on the speaker's balcony, which is a very unusual place. People don't get to go there. So he has a picture of the whole team on the balcony overlooking the mall. It gives you an interesting perspective of what's on the speaker's balcony in the Capitol.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then they were given tours of the teams were given tours of the White House and the Capitol and so on. So that polished off 2 more presidents, and in between all that, Clinton comes to a big fundraiser with Shaquille O'Neal right here in Santa Ana in Orange County, and I got to do that one because Pat had to do something else. So I've got to go to the Clinton one with Shaquille O'Neal. And what happens on those is when you go in, you have to be credentialed. You have to be vetted. Anytime you're going into these events, you have to be vetted before you go in. And so all these up to this time, but George H.W., he didn't have an opportunity to photograph him while he was serving as president. However, after he was out of office, we were hired for an entire weekend when George H.W. was speaking to an economic conference in Newport Beach. So we filled in that little gap. We put in,
wow.
So he got filled in there. It's
pretty awesome.
And during that time, Pat mentioned that he had taken all these presidents up to him, and George H.W. said, "How many photos have you had of yourself with the president?" Pat said, "None," because as a photographer, you do not interfere with people. You just stand in the background, take a picture, get their names, make sure they're spelled right, and don't cut their heads off.
Don't cut their heads off.
Keep them in, that's the whole bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm a photographer. I know the drill.
Don't cut their heads off. Keep them in focus and spell their name right. And get their title. Titles are really important.
Oh, yeah. You got to make sure you do that.
So George H.W., who was waiting to go in to be the speaker, I had gone in to set it because we wanted to find a place for a meet and greet after they did, and we had to do all that. But So he was out there with George H.W. and he said, how many photos have you taken with President? None. So he says, okay, let's do it right now. So he handed his camera to the Secret Service guy, and he said, okay, Joe, take a picture of us together. And so Joe hits the button once, and George H.W. said, Joe, photographers never take one photo. And Pat said, it's on a motor. You can do it. A whole roll later, he got a whole roll. This is still black and white in color. And we're
film, probably, too.
We are not in digital yet.
Probably film, too, right?
It's film. It's color film, and it's black and white film. And we had our own darkroom to process our own black and white. We did that during all those fair years because we had to take the photos and then process them and get them out we were always under a deadline when we worked the fair for 2 weeks in the summer.
Oh, wow. What a cool thing. You just fell right into all that and just developed the whole reputation.
It all was fun. Now we're back. Now we have Reagan coming up. Reagan, his first kickoff campaign, he goes to Mile Square Park, 1 mile from our house. Mm-hmm. So Pat goes back there. Then Reagan is, when you are a sitting president, you travel with your own photographer. However, if you are not a sitting president, you're fair game anyway, but that means, so he was able to he had to talk his way into that one. And then he got pictures of Reagan on stage and the first one, Nancy Reagan wasn't with him, but Pat Boone and some local politicians were with him and some of the backers. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first time. Then the second time, he goes back to Mile Square Park again 4 years later to kick off his second campaign.
Oh, wow.
And then at the end of the campaign, Pat's still at Cal State. He's at Cal State Fullerton, and Reagan comes to endorse George H.W. And so Pat, of course, is in. So one of the interesting things is Pat's got him photos of in 1980 when he started running and when he ended in 88. And the difference in the aging you can see in Reagan in particular.
Oh, wow.
How he aged over those 8 years.
Presidency really does that to people.
It does.
Yeah.
It does age them. So anyway, all these things, and now the other thing we got to do was to cover to be volunteers at the 1984 Olympics. And the one venue that ran the whole 2 weeks was held at Cal State Fullerton. So we volunteered for the whole 2 weeks at team handball, which nobody in this country really knows anything about, but it's really big in Europe. Mm-hmm. So there was a king of Sweden came. Now that means lots and lots of security. But Pat's mm-hmm. already been through the Secret Service many times, and they're in there with their guns, and so Pat he has to stay so far away and grab a shot when he can. Because otherwise they'll come and take the camera and then it gets nasty. So you don't intrude on.
You don't want to lose your camera too, because especially if you get some good pictures in there.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So now we're just about out of doing fair, and we just decided to start a freelance business, and we did that, and he's up through George H.W. and then we find out that Obama will be the guest of honor at the 50th anniversary of the opening of the University of California, Irvine. So in 1964, Johnson was there, Pat was there. So in 2004, Obama comes to Angel Stadium. So that's 50 years difference. So Pat was at both of them. And I was in the stands and he was down on the dais because you realize these things, the amount of press and cameras and all kinds of stuff show up. So there's a picture up there there's pictures in the book, but there's one up there that he's got Obama on stage in the robes for the graduation ceremony. So anyway, all these things just happened to fall in our path, and we had to ferret them out sometimes and figure out how to get into an event. But we had been working with UCI with the Johnson stuff and some other things that we had done for them. So they were generous enough to make sure we had the passes. He had the right pass to get on the thing. And I was in the stands with a long lens. So I have a picture of the entire press corps camera people all in front of the stage, because it was a very big event, obviously. And so we stayed at the Orange County Fair for almost 25 years, but in between, that was summer, and then we also spent 4 years at the State Fair in Sacramento. But then it got too much, because we had to have a dark room up there, and we had to set up a motel room with a dark room in it. It just got way more than we wanted. But during the years of doing the fair, not only did we have the B guy, but we had the PR lady who did all the public relations for it. She wanted to have a cattle drive and a sheep drive down the main streets of the city of Costa Mesa, where the fair is held. So we had a cattle drive coming down. They had cowboys. We had about about 30 cattle and 4 cattle dogs. And if it hadn't been for the cattle dogs, who knows where those cows would have gone, because they kept them in check. And we got both sides of the street lined with people, and we're in the back of pickup trucks. And then they thought that was so successful, they decided to do a sheep drive. So we got all these sheep down there, and sheepdogs, and so it was just all these things that happened at the fair. And then at night on the fair, we also had to shoot the acts that were on stage, who came in, and then you have a certain rule when you go in to shoot who's ever on stage. For a musical group, you have 4 minutes, and then you leave. For a single, you have about 2 minutes, and then you leave. So that's all you can be. You're right. You're leaning on the stage, but once your time is up, you're out of there. And then afterwards, you have to do a meet and greet. And the celebrities all know that that's part of their contract. And then usually the fair board, friends, donors come in. The only trouble is that I had one, I won't name them, you could only do one shot. And I had somebody stand beside this entertainer, and if I tried to do 2, they go no, out. The other one, they said you can only stand on a chair, and you can shoot only from this angle. And if the celebrity was standing there, and the handler was standing across, and if I went one way or the other, if I went up too high, too low, or left or right, they nod they shake their head, and then they point to where they wanted the camera. So I had to stand on a chair while he went through the meet and greet. It was a guy. Went through the meet and greet. They didn't want his bald spot to show.
Yeah. Was that what that was all about?
That's what it was all about.
Wow.
So all those things happened in the demolition derbies, and it was, and rodeo. We always had rodeo. So finally, we're done, and Pat decides he's retiring from the university, and we just decide we're just going to do freelance. Mm-hmm. And we had some clients, and so we did charities, and we did dinners, and we had celebrities who came in, and we had to go through the same thing again. We did meet and greets and photographed the donors and made sure that all the stuff was publication ready so it could be put out. There was more print publication then than now. So we were covering for magazines and newspapers and all that. And what happened was we were doing all of that, and then later things going along, and we thought, okay, he's got all the presidents from Eisenhower to Obama, and we kind of let it go at that. And then Biden came to town.
Oh, yeah.
I'm being honest.
You guys are in the right place for all these presidents.
So now this is tricky because he wasn't affiliated with the paper anymore. He didn't really have the credentials. We did have some up-to-date credentials. And we called the Democratic Party, and they were a loss as to they didn't know anything about it. And then we called a couple of Democrat people that we knew, and they thought they knew about it, but didn't think they could get in. And we even called the Republican Party because we knew some congressman over there. And we said, "Do you think we can get in?" And we go, "Okay." Anyway, so we just decided we would go to it. It was a private event, and it was at a local junior college, and it was a select group of people who were invited, and we went down with all of his credentials, which most of them are on that vest over there. all of his press passes, White House press passes, the White House press pool, the Rose Bowl, everything is on there. And boxes. I never threw anything away. So I stayed in the parking lot. He took everything he could. He took all this stuff. Plus, he had 2 cameras with the big lenses on them, so he looked really official, right? And he talked his way in.
Good job. They had the cred. He had a lot of names he could drop.
And he could drop all those, and he had his White House credentials.
I mean, when you photograph that many presidents, you think you should have an in anywhere, pretty much.
You don't. You have to be vetted for everything.
Yeah, and security protocols, I imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Richard Nixon, that was right after John F. Kennedy sadly was shot, and the Secret Service really amped up the failures that they made.
He did have a lot of trouble, not a lot of trouble, but Johnson, when he was right after Kennedy was shot in November and he showed up in June to deck the grounds, Pat said that Secret Service is really tight, but Johnson decided to jump into the crowd, and the Secret Service were very vocal about why he should not go into the crowd.
That's true. Ford got shot at. I can't remember.
Yeah, we just lost
3 or 4 times.
On our watch, you're not going. But he went in because there were Boy Scouts there. And this was a big deal.
Yeah. I can't remember if Carter got shot at. I think there were some plots against Nixon.
Reagan got shot at.
Reagan got shot,
Ford got shot at.
Yeah.
So,
I think
it's just tricky. And
Ford was trying to kill himself, throwing him down the stairs of the airplane all the time.
He tried that a lot.
Yeah. Chevy Chase built a whole career on that.
That's true.
Who knew you could build a comedy career in movies and Hollywood just by pretending to be Geraldine Ford? Throw yourself down. Not Geraldine Ford, Gerald Ford, and throw yourself down.
Yes. He would himself down. After he, there was one during all this time, we also did the opening and the red carpet for the two major theaters in Orange County. One is called the Segerstrom Center for the Performing Arts, and the other one is called the Concert Hall, which are major, big, they bring in all the big shows, and the Concert for the Philharmonic. And we did those. Not only did we do the groundbreaking on the theaters, but we followed them through all the way in the girder when they were putting the topping off, the topping girder off. In fact, we actually got to sign that one because we were at the signing ceremony when they lift the final girder up in the thing. The developer was Henry Segerstrom, and he was very instrumental in building Orange County to what it mostly is what it is today. And he basically, his family were farmers, and they funded these 2 major halls, and they're major world-class theaters. Anyway, one thing that Henry decided to do was he wanted to have the British Festival at his shopping center, which is called South Coast Plaza. And he wanted to have the British Festival, so I went there, but I had to also be vetted because various royalty were coming, so I had to go to protocol luncheons. So I knew when and where to take pictures of various minor princesses and princes from England.
Oh, wow.
And what to say, what you have to know, there are certain things you can and can't do.
Oh, yeah, you got a protocol.
You cannot ever ask them to pose. So you spend the whole time shooting candidates and hoping you get them in the right frame. And anybody who comes up, any friend of yours that comes up and said, please take a picture. I said, the best I can do is to have you go in the vicinity. I'll try and get you in the frame because I can't ask them to stop or turn around. And what he did was one of the major players was Margaret Thatcher. So he had Margaret Thatcher come in. Now, in this county, Jimmy Roosevelt was living with his wife, Mary. I still keep in touch with her all the time.
Oh, wow.
And Jimmy Roosevelt was at the big dinner when Margaret Thatcher came in. So technically, Jimmy Roosevelt was the son of Franklin Roosevelt, and he is meeting Margaret Thatcher. So,
oh, wow.
Once again,
what a room.
When all these negatives had been parceled out and all the stories have gone out, it went to I could call the archivist at the Roosevelt Library in Hyde Park, and she met me, and I gave her information on Jimmy Roosevelt and Margaret Thatcher.
Wow. That's awesome, man. What a moment.
Anyway, finally, after we were retired and then COVID hit and we were done. We were getting old.
Yeah.
too old to go out there all the time.
Yeah. It wasn't very fun to go out back then, so.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, was it?
Years and years of going out, 60 years.
No, I meant during COVID. Sorry.
Oh, no, COVID. Well, so he took up writing and he decided to write travel articles because we had done a lot of traveling. Yeah. So he was writing for a local magazine, a travel article, and that went on for a long time. After he passed, I had 60 years of stuff to go through. And I had I had a pile of the nobody cares because I don't remember what this was. Or this might be important, don't keep this. And then I had all the presidents and all these celebrities, and the pile was don't touch. This is important.
Yeah.
So and then I got rid of the nobody cares because I couldn't remember what they were, and the place was out of business anyway. But I put all the negatives and I boxed them all up, and they're in envelopes, and they have been now sent off to the Nixon Library.
It's wonderful.
And the Carter Library.
Uh-huh.
And West Point.
Wow.
And the Roosevelt Library.
Uh-huh.
And also in this county, they've gone to museums. They've gone to the Performing Arts Center. They have gone to cities. The city of Newport Beach, we did an event with them when they had turned 100 years old, and they had the Beach Boys come. So so Newport Beach has all that 100th anniversary that we did.
Uh-huh.
I don't have any need to keep them, and if I don't parcel them out where they belong, nobody's going to know where they are or what they are.
Yeah.
So basically, I still have whatever's left over, because I have quite a lot, but it's going to the archives in the county. Yeah. It'll be housed at the county archives, and they're waiting for it. And I keep telling them I'm not ready to give it to you yet. And then I find another place to send them. I just recently found Barry Goldwater on a campaign whistle stop. I found those negatives, and I know his daughter, so I sent her copies of the negatives. I emailed them to her, and they came up. I don't know. They pop up every once in a while.
Oh, wow. Well, that's cool.
I gave Norm Gary for the B guy. I sent him all of his negatives. I sent them to his family.
That prior guy was almost the president once, the Barry Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater. Yeah, and we also I have Hubert Humphrey. I have Bob Dole. All these things. The other one, I forgot this one. One of our clients was on the political thing, and we would have politicians come in, and then back in '97, and this goes back a long time, we had, I think it's then, they had what they called the Children of the Cold War. So we had David Eisenhower, Julie Eisenhower, and Sergei Khrushchev on stage at a local college, and they were talking about their times in the White House and the years of the Cold War and their fathers. And then one of the photos is a big there's a big blow up that they carried. They said they were on Toro, and one of them is a big blow up of Richard Nixon and Nikita Khrushchev shaking hands. So we put Sergei in front of his father and Julie in front of her father.
Oh, wow.
Their hands in front of that. So that's in the book too.
Wow. What a life, man. What a life. I'm glad you're able to categorize all that stuff, put it together, and celebrate his work. The thing about pictures and images, especially back then, because there was a lot of digital running around, and taking photos was a scarcity job because it was expensive. It was expensive to take the photos. You didn't have the ability to put them on the camera to really see maybe what the end result. Like after I take a picture with my Sony, I can see immediately what it looks like and whether I got it right or not. I cut off someone's head, or maybe the focus is messed up. A lot of times when you took photos back with film, and I came up in that age, but you just kind of took photos and prayed. I'm sure that your husband was really skilled at the science of photography and working all the knobs and ISOs and lighting and stuff. But every now and then you get a banger that's just, it's like, what the hell is I? Sometimes I have pictures of my pocket or something, or my pants, because I'm setting the camera down and I'm trying to change lenses. And somehow I accidentally got a picture of that. And back then it was, you're kind of living without the backup wire, basically, when you're a photographer, because you just have to sit and wait for the prints to come. Or if you did the homework, did he do his printing of photos at home in a dark room?
All of our black and white. We had a dark room.
Okay, yeah.
So we had the dark room, so we could. But you're right. you were never sure if that person, if you put 4 people in a line, you can take 8 photos of them, and maybe you'll be lucky if one.
Yeah, one's got his eyes open right, or
they're going to have their eyes closed. They're going to be looking at the ceiling. They're going to be smiling. They're going to, and so it did. It was. We had to make sure we always had plenty of film, because we couldn't see what we were doing.
Yeah,
not like now.
Yeah. And now I can see instantly after I take a picture. It shows me the review,
and then you always worried. Does the film go through the camera? It happened to me once.
Did the film itself go bad? Yeah.
No. Did the film go ratchet through the camera?
Oh.
And it was in 100-degree heat. It was the opening of an ice house, and they decided that they wanted to have an ice sculpture out in the sun, and they were going to sculpt this to open the ice house. Fine. The film didn't ratchet to the camera. I had to go back and beg them to redo it, and hopefully that there was still enough ice there. I had to reshoot it because it didn't go through the camera.
Oh, wow. It didn't do the whole roll through.
It didn't do anything.
It sucked up into the deal. That's right. You had to hook it just right.
You had to get it in there, and you had to get it through, and then you had to click it, and then, oh my God, you only have 36 photos, and how close am I to the end, and I've got to take 10 pictures, and as soon as you get more than 5 people in a group, you have to take. And then, people don't like really standing around for their picture to be taken for much more than 30
especially
seconds.
When you got all these people want to shake your hand, give you money.
And they go into the meet and greet. And meet and greet is very tricky because they all want to tell the principal about their business, their fishing trip, their grandchildren, and you have to move them diplomatically out of the line, or you would never get them to the line. And on a meet and greet, you have to warn the people coming through. I had to do that many times. When you get up there, we're going to take 2 pictures, smile, keep your eyes open. Don't close your eyes. And they get up there and go, okay, 1, 2, bye. That was it. Yeah. And if you warn and tell them, and especially when we're dealing with various royalty, don't talk to them. I'll try and put you in the photo. But and they all think that they have the most wonderful story to tell the principal.
Oh yeah, their stories. Yeah.
There's always stories.
I never really thought about that. Like I have a press pass at a local racetrack, and they race cars there. And so every few weeks I go out there and shoot. And this last week when I went out, they were having on a track where the camera access I had was just awful. And I could only catch the cars in this one segment slot that you could see the full car in. It was a really bad position I'd gotten into. And so I was banging the shutter super fast, running shutter speed so that I could capture the cars as they went through. As soon as I'd hear one coming, I just hit the button and hold it down.
And just hold it down and hope there's something.
And hope I catch it, with the right speed. And I did. But it took a lot of photos because some of them I missed, and I took 2,000 shutter speed, high speed photos, and it was a nightmare to delete 3/4 of them because most of them were blank or the car was entering or exiting. But I had this small wall that it would open up and you would be able to see the whole car, and so I was trying to bang that.
Wow.
A little hole. And so, but I just thought about it. I'm like, I didn't care because it's all digital, right? I'm just like, 2,000 photos, who cares? But how would you do like sports shutter shooting for speed back in those days with film? Oh my.
Pat was shooting NFL football. He was shooting the NBA. Up here, this one up here, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he was in Milwaukee.
I grew up with him playing.
And then we have another one. Anyway, I have more sports pictures. Oh, that's Wilt Chamberlain and Magic Johnson, I think, up there on the wall. So he was part of being a newspaper photographer was you got to go, but you had to sit on the floor under the basket. And those guys are big when they're coming thundering down the court. And you're sitting under the basket on the floor of a basketball court, shooting at a very strange angle. You're shooting up, and so he had to do that quite often. And football, he had to stand on the sideline. He got run over a couple of times. Baseball, they do put you in a bullpen so you don't have you're more or less protected from it. But you have to know shutter speeds, and you have to know you have to line stuff up and go there early, and the light is changing constantly when you're outside on these things. So he was able to overcome all of that. I think it came so naturally to him, especially if I had to yell at him and say, I don't know what I'm doing over here, please help me.
Yeah.
But he would always make sure. And it was just an extremely interesting 60 years. And I'm still working on it.
That's awesome.
Because they'll never be done.
That's awesome. You really got to be a good photographer back in those days. You got to know your camera, the science of photography, shutter speeds, ISOs. You really got to have all that down because, man, I was thinking about that. How did you used to run that? Did you run multiple cameras? So
we always had to have it. We always had. Sometimes we had to shoot color, black and white, and color print and slides.
Oh God.
We had one camera for slides, one camera for black and white, and then we had a color print camera. There were events when we had to do all three, like the Bee Guy. We had to do, because these were major publicity photos for him, and that's why we had. So we would generally have 3 cameras going, and sometimes we'd trade off. He might start with the black and white, and I'd start with the color, and then he'd take the color from me and show me back to the black and white, depending on the event. And then make sure that you have plenty of film. You're only getting 36 photos on a roll of film, and you have to know where you are. You have to watch the count on the camera, and you go, because you don't want to end up. Not having any more film.
Yeah, you're just pressing buttons and it's going nowhere into space. That's one of the things I like about digital is I think I have 2,500 pictures I can take with the cards I run.
Yeah,
and so I can just be sloppy as hell, but you're not a lot of room for errors. I remember I used to have those old, I think it was a Kodak 110 or something. It was a little really long, thin. It wasn't a professional camera. It was just these junky commercial things. And I remember one time I took a whole roll of film and burnt and shot stuff with it. And like my finger was over the lens. Sometimes there was like all this stuff. I remember there was one roll I got back that was just complete garbage. Like nothing really had come out on any of it.
That's not unusual. That happens.
And I remember taking it from the old Kodak Photomat. If you'd go to those things and drop it off, then come back a couple days later. And just complete garbage. And you're just like, that was a whole waste of money and time.
It was.
Yeah.
And they don't exist anymore. In fact, I don't even know how I guess there are places you can go and take your color print film, but nobody uses color print film because everybody has a phone.
Yeah, there's places now that sell the film and process it still.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. There was a studio I went to shoot at for a portfolio shoot I was doing, and outside the studio, and this is in downtown Salt Lake, they had an old film. It was they have a small office because it's not the most popular thing probably these days, but they had original film and they processed it, and it was weird to see the old boxes of film and thinking about all this. I used to store them all in the refrigerator and the freezer.
Yeah.
Was it the freezer or the refrigerator you'd store them in?
The refrigerator.
Yeah, the refrigerator.
Don't want to get too hot. So we actually bought one of those little box refrigerators for the for the dark room. You had to have the chemicals in the dark room, and you had to have a dryer, and you had to have an enlarger, and then you had to measure it all, and then you had to take the film out of the camera in the total dark and learn how to put it on the reel, and then put the reel in the canister, and seal the canister, and only go and make sure you set the timer. Yeah, it was tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at pictures online now of the old Kodak little commercial cameras, 110s. Yeah.
But it basically started when Polaroid figured out how to make the picture appear instantly.
Yeah.
It took a long time from Polaroid to digital, but even we had to go to digital all across the board too. So then you get but now we're not shooting with our phones. We're shooting with digital Nikons. once again, because of the print quality. We're still shooting for print. And I don't know how your time is going, but anyway.
Yeah.
But it was, we had to change almost everything. And it was interesting.
Wow.
And once we figured out how to use it, we start out with a little teeny tiny window that you could see the photo. And now they're bigger. But I have a 4x5 here that was left over. I have Nikons that are not digital. I have just bodies of cameras that, and this is another thing, I really don't know where to put all this stuff.
Wonder if there's have you thought about photos, maybe you could put an art display, but maybe the famous ones you have would be something you put on. The
famous ones are these, some of these are mounted. I mean, they're mounted on 16 by 20s. Because they have been shown. They have been up when he would put his display up for various events. And after the book was published, we would do book signings, take the books, and then we would line all the way around the tables. We would hang up the vest and stash the photos, because this is only a very small. This is just basically the president's. I've got all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, that's
already blown up, and so there's plenty of it. And until I make a decision on where to go with it all, so I've done some other video vlogs and so on. So that's why I've done them here. This is my upstairs where the wall now. But most of those are taped up to his awards. That whole wall, I had to take some of the awards down to put up the stuff. But some of his awards are there, including his Lifetime Achievement Award from the Greater Los Angeles Press Photographers Association.
Oh, wonderful!
They gave him that, and the reason that we finally got him to start the book. Number one was COVID, so we were here.
Oh, yeah. A lot of books came out of COVID.
Yeah, a lot of them. And after he stopped teaching, in 2023, we had a 40th reunion of some of his students who were in his classes at Cal State Fullerton, and ones at National Geographic. They worked at UPI, they worked at AP, they worked at the LA Times. They were moved across the country into various newspapers. So a lot of them, they came from Oregon, Washington, Virginia, back just to a reunion for us. So we had it at our house, and it was very, very lovely. And so it was and they all told him he had to put this in a book. We talked about it, and then one day, and he was not very good at the computer. He couldn't turn it on. Seriously,
it took a while to get used to him. Sometimes you can't turn.
He had a hard enough time going digital.
Yeah.
Came out of cameras. But after I showed him and wrote the instruction out and taped it to the computer on how to turn it on and set up his pages to start typing, he just did it.
Oh.
He also was in the Air Force Reserve, and so he had to spend time doing that. So he did a chapter about being in the Air Force. And then they made him the public relations officer at March Air Force Base.
Wow.
Reserve unit. So there's a couple of stories in there about, this is an old story about Bibi Rebozo. Do you remember that name?
I don't.
Bibi Rebozo, the Richard Nixon era. Anyway, so he had to be called, the Air Force called him in to find out how well he knew Bibi Rebozo.
Oh, wow.
He basically Rebozo was a criminal, more or less, connected with Richard Nixon. And
big surprise there.
I know. Anyway, but he couldn't do it there.
What a wonderful stories. What a lifetime to live. You almost have to pinch yourself when you live a life like that.
I wonder how we made it through all that stuff.
What a great experience, and meeting presidents and photos. I just dream of stuff like that. I have to take photos of just people I find in the park and on the street for street photography. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Peggy. We really appreciate it. I have
one last thing. So just remember, life is a photo op, so enjoy it.
Life is a photo op. I need to put that on my coffee cup or on my shirt and remember that as my photographer.
It is.
I'm a little amateur hack out here with the camera.
Everything you take a picture of is your photo. Whether it's your lunch, your pet, your house, a flower. Everybody takes pictures now. And I love it because I think to lose that would be terrible if people stop taking pictures. I don't care if it's your lunch or your dog. Keep connected with the world. Especially after COVID, we were so isolated.
Yeah, it's
for
true.
So long. And so this is where I am with this, and I've enjoyed speaking to you. It's been
I'm enjoying having you too. I'm a big fan of photography, and of course I do photography. I'm still kind of learning the science of it, and just got back into it after 9 years gone a year ago. And so I'm trying to learn, and I go every weekend to get practice. But man, the digital's very forgiving for all the stupid photos I take.
It's very forgiving, even if they have their eyes closed.
Oh yeah, yeah. And nowadays you can do the AI and the Photoshop stuff. You can do nowadays.
I know.
Freaking insane! I can open those eyes.
My son found my father was a photographer. He was an amateur, but he took a picture of in 1945 or 6. I was like 4 years old. Of myself sitting in my grandparents' living room with my mother and my grandparents and some other people. I have no idea who they were. Okay.
Wow.
Now it's black and white.
Oh wow.
My son is a photo teacher in Northern California, and he took this photo and he took it AI. He not only changed it to color, he added himself in a 1940s suit with a hat on at the end of the sofa.
That's amazing.
And he goes, "Look what I did with AI."
It's crazy.
Color.
It's crazy.
My son in a 1940s suit at the end of the sofa.
Even AI and Photoshop can make me look like a great photographer. Let's put it that way. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thanks guys for tuning in.
Thank you for having me. Okay.
Order up Patrick and his wife's book. What do 11 U.S. presidents, the Dalai Lama, and WHOOPI have in common? What an adventure and beautiful photos to take and preview there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com, Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com, YouTube.com, Facebook.com, all / Chris Voss, one word. Be good to each other, folks. Stay safe. I'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.